On part two, the custom cow hood build. I'm gonna kind of go over what I've already done. You can see we went ahead and cut it, raised it. Here on the sides, what I've done is I got 2 inches of height back here, and it just tapers off to nothing. It's 44 inches there, and I wound up cutting these pieces because I wanted it to kind of lay out. I didn't want them standing straight up and get it real boxy. So I wound up cutting a piece of 16 gauge, 4 1/4 by 44 inches, and then I cut it from quarter to quarter diagonally. And I just came up with some big old oblong triangles, more or less. And then back here I just got a piece of 2-inch 16 gauge, and it came out 4 foot wide. And then I just kind of cut it here because of the radius. You can kind of see the radius. I couldn't leave it flat. And if you have never tacked sheet metal before, you don't want to get a bunch of heat in this. You're going to want to spread your heat out and just put tacks every few inches. Let it cool, come back, tack, tack, tack. It's a long process tacking sheet metal. If you come in here and you get too much heat in this panel, it's just going to warp it all to pieces. What do you got going? Using my hood as a table?
Yeah, it's a pretty good table though.
Yeah, I see you just made yourself right at home.
Yeah, it might be better than it being hood.
Yeah, it might be. But what we're going to do is we're going to start tacking it. It's going to be a long process. Keep the heat out of it. Even when you go back to grind all your tacks off, keep your heat out, because these panels will warp. And when you warp them really bad, it just causes more body work in the end. So this is the time to take your time and just go slow, tack, tack, tack. Don't get a bunch of heat. I've made that mistake. Even getting too much heat tacking will warp a panel this big. And the same goes for quarters or rockers or whatever. Just always when you're tacking sheet metal, don't ever just go full bore weld.
Or you can make a good workbench.
Or I guess it does make a good workbench at this point. I went ahead and just got me some little corners. I'm going to shove them in here from the inside, tack that all up, get my corners right. I talked about maybe extending this hood back or to go over the vent cowl of the truck. But after looking at it, I'm kind of digging it like this. I think if I do put a piece back here, it's going to be super floppy. Then to try to make it try to get any strength in it, it's just going to have a bunch of trash welded underneath it. I don't think I want to go into all that. Definitely don't want to make it look no trashier than it has to be. And I was going to come back here and cut some vents and put some wire mesh behind it just for visual. I'm going to have to wait till I get it all welded up, because I'm thinking that maybe if I do put the wire mesh, if I drive in the rain or every time I wash it, it's going to just pour the water into the frame of this hood. And I definitely don't want the hood to start rusting out. But after we get it welded, we're going to flip it over and kind of see how the water would drain off and where it would drain off to before I decide to cut the holes back here. I'm going to go ahead and get the tacking these corners in. And then I'm going to try to get one whole side tacked, just to where y'all can kind of look at it and see what's going on. These sides are just a little bit different from side to side. And if you don't want to have to fight the radius of this hood, as you can see the radius and this piece that I had was straight. What I did is as I was tacking it and it was getting that heat in it, as I was tacking it, I was just pulling down on it slightly to try to get it to concave to the same curve of the hood. But you can come in here and just cut this in pieces, 3 or 4 separate little chunks to where you don't have to fight it as much as I did. As you can see where I had to really start fighting it, where the tack started getting closer together because I was trying to get a little more heat into it to be able to try to pull it down with the curve. This side didn't lay as nice as the other side, but when I come back with all my body filler, I can make them match. I'll just have just a tad bit more filler on this side, which is no big deal. I don't know if you can tell on camera just a little bit of the difference. I really like how this side came out more better. This is what I was really looking for with it being laid down like that. This other side was a little more stood up. It was fighting me a lot worse. But like I say, once I get in there with the filler, it'll definitely match the other side. For you guys out there saying we're stupid for using this flux core and not gas with solid wire, it's because gas around here where we live, it's ridiculous. $600 a year deposit and $200 a bottle. So we just use the flux core. But a little tip, if you are using flux core wire welder, get the Kiswell brand wire. It's a lot less flatter and seems to do a lot better than all the other brands. The wire that actually came with the welder, that titanium welder from Harbor Freight, it was actually really good wire. And I've tried to research what brand of wire that they put in their factory, but I hadn't been able to find out what brand it is. But I know the Harbor Freight brand wire sucks. Lincoln wire is not that great. And that Kiswell seems to be kind of where it's at. Well guys, I couldn't go on without extending this the way a cow hood's supposed to be extended. I was going to be lazy and just go with what I had, but that's trash. So, you can kind of see my setup here. I'm going to extend it out. What I've done is I've just cut a bunch of these pieces and bent them. And I got 48 of them, it's 4 foot wide. And we're 1 inch pieces. I'm just going to layer them across the back here. And I'm going to get started here and get a little more done so you can kind of see what I'm going for here. You can kind of see more of what I'm doing here to get this extended. The reason I'm doing it in these little 1 inch pieces is because the radius back here, I didn't have a way to cut it and get it right. I could have tried cutting it with cutoff wheel, but it ain't gonna happen for me. So I just chose to do it this way. It's gonna be a lot more welding in the end, but I think we'll be alright. Well, I kind of went ahead and did a few steps without videoing anything. It's looking alright. They don't make sheet metal the way they used to. It did warp like hell, but I'm just gonna have to try to beat some of the warps out of it and then start putting some body filler on there. She should come around. Braced up the bottom. You can kind of see where we went ahead and went from the factory brace. Just extending it up to a few different spots. Wound up using a little over 2 pounds of wire, tacking around on this thing. If you've ever used a flux core welder, you kind of know that as you get a little heat into them, they start welding a little better. Still got some cleanup to do. So with a little bit of heat, it weld better, so we kind of got carried away every once in a while, and she did warp here and there, but if you had a better welder, I bet you could keep a lot of that warping out. And if you're working on something older, it's just going to be better all the way around anyways. But that's going to do it for part 2. Next time you'll see this, we'll be starting to do body work, putting some filler on here.